So I was going to do a quick talk today about warping your loom. It's a question I get fairly frequently about how to warp an Inkle Loom. There's really not any wrong way to do it, but there is a way to maximize the length. So you can see here I've already warped this loom. It's not done in the best way to maximize the length of the warp. I did it because I had a shorter warp and I needed to put it on this loom so that I could work on it. So I had to be a little creative about how I put the warps in order to make it work. Now if I were to maximize the space, and I'll just use this purple thread here, I start at the beginning, this front peg, I go up and over the top, and then I go back and forth from peg to peg, and then I often use this peg. This is the heddle peg for doing inkle weaving. And I often use this instead of this one in order to make just a few extra inches on that warp. And I go to the back peg, all the way to the beginning. I go to the lower peg, around the tension peg, and around the front peg again. And then I tie these ends together. I don't tie it to the peg because then it's circular. So I'm just going to scoot the strings back so they don't fall off. But that circular warp will then slide around, and as you work you can move the threads around so you can continue weaving, creating a really long band. Now, setting this loom aside for a minute, let me pull in another loom. This is the Schacht Spindle Loom. This one I received as a gift from a friend, and she was moving and couldn't take it with her. It has a very similar setup. It has fewer pegs, and it's slightly smaller, so I don't get the same yardage out of this one as I did the other one. But it's the same principle. You start at the beginning, you go up and over the top pegs, and then back and forth around the heddle peg, just to give you a few extra inches of warp, oops, around the end and back to the beginning, and you tie those ends together so that you have that circular warp that can slide around the pegs. I really do like this loom. It's a very great sturdy loom. The one issue is there's a trench right here where this peg meets the frame, and threads kind of slip in there when you're first starting weaving. So a viewer had a suggestion, and this is really cool. Take one of these elastic hair bands and you put it on there, and it'll keep the threads from scooting over. Super simple. Great solution. Brilliant idea. Now the third loom I'm going to show you is the Becca loom. So this is another loom that I got from my friend when she was moving. And this one warps up pretty differently. So let me show you what we do here. So we start at this first peg. You go up and over the top, just like usual. But then we go at this odd diagonal, zigzagging back and forth until you get to that peg. Then you go up around the tension peg, around this peg, and then back to the beginning. So you actually do get quite a lot of yardage out of this because it is taller and it has more pegs. And it is, again, a very nice loom. The only problem I've had with it so far is that the threading on the screw of this tension peg has stripped out, but that's super easy to replace. It's an easy trip to a hardware store to fix it. The other thing you're probably asking about is, what is this? This is just an elastic so that when I'm done weaving for the day, I can put my shuttle onto there and it'll hold onto my shuttle. And it's easy to transport and it doesn't fall onto the floor and scatter everywhere. So I hope this tutorial has been helpful, and I wish you happy weaving. It's circular. Whoops. It doesn't usually fall off that way. Let's fix this. The magic of editing.